from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
New ag export expectations are out from USDA, and it's good news for 2017. Could a policy change in China lead to more ethanol imports? And agribusiness keeping up with those corn markets.
Last year we had a big crop and big demand. This year we have a smaller crop and smaller demand.
And citizen scientists lending their gardens to research in Tennessee.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. After 2 years of weaker exports of farm goods, it appears 2017 will push back higher. The Ag Department forecasting the value of ag exports in fiscal year 2017 will hit nearly $140 billion. Now that's up $10 billion from fiscal year 2016. It also breaks the trend of 2 consecutive years of falling exports in value. With stronger exports and modest import increases in 2017, the U.S. will have an agricultural trade surplus of about $23 billion compared to $7 billion last year. USDA says the increase reflects the improvement in the global economy. It also represents a lower value for the U.S. dollar, which makes it a better deal for foreign buyers to purchase U.S. ag products.
Well, obviously it makes us a little more competitive in the export market relative to Brazil or Argentina or somebody else. It depends on who you're weakening. We talk about the dollar as an index, but it's individual country relationships that drive the competitiveness. We're watching the dollar pretty closely. The DX, which is only one of 3 or 4 ways of measuring the dollar index, is at 92. That is a major chart support point on the weekly and monthly charts. If we break that, it goes down to 88.5 or so. That would be a 4% swing. Well, if the dollar's 4% weaker, it takes 4% more dollars to buy the same supply and demand value. That'd be 30-some cents a bushel in soybeans. So we are talking some significant price movement potential if the dollar weakens further.
USDA's early prediction in 2018 points to strong exports, but falling from 2017's highs. Key issues of free trade and economic growth took center stage this week as leaders of the international finance world meet in Beijing. Leaders of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and World Trade Organization gathered to focus on the global economy. The managing director of the International Monetary Fund says China should attain economic growth of 6.7% this year. Now that's below the 8% growth that China achieved 2 years ago. Christine Lagarde praised China for its pivot from an industry-driven economy toward a service-oriented economy.
We observe an incredible rebalancing of the Chinese economy. I call it the great pivot. From investment to consumption, from industry to services, reducing the current account deficit and moving from mechanical to digital at a faster pace than anyone else.
Meanwhile, answering the call for clean air, China announcing plans to implement more ethanol into its gasoline supplies, moving to E10 blends by the year 2020. The E10 mandate could create a boom for U.S. ethanol, considering China is the world's largest car market and currently ranks number 3 for fuel ethanol consumption. Peter Meyer of S&P Global Platts says this may be one answer to moving corn markets higher on down the road.
I think it starts to hit us in 19 because that's when we're going to start to see. If they start to ramp up in 20, we're not going to see it until 19. So we're still going to have to get through the 18 crop year before we start to see it.
Meyer's cautious that the biggest unknown in China's domestic ethanol production is capacity. But he thinks if China looks to the U.S. to help meet demand for that ethanol mandate, he thinks it will initially be in the form of ethanol, but spilling into corn shipments after that. Meanwhile, China's thirst for fuel may dry up. According to China's new agency, the country is considering plans to end sales of cars that run on gasoline or diesel. The country would be joining France and Britain, which announced plans in July to stop sales of petroleum-fueled cars by the year 2040. The Xinhua news agency says Beijing is stepping up pressure on automakers to accelerate development of electric cars. Plans are now underway in China for an official state visit by President Trump. While no firm date is set, it's expected the visit could happen still this year. Chinese President Xi Jinping invited Trump to visit China during their meeting in April in Palm Beach, Florida. The president is already scheduled to attend a U.S.-Asia summit in the Philippines in November. A new report from CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division is looking at the processing capacity in the dairy industry. It found on average, every year, U.S. dairy farmers produce 3 billion more pounds of milk than the year before. However, processing capacity is growing much slower. The senior dairy economist at CoBank says the U.S. needs an additional 27 billion pounds of processing capacity in the next 10 years if trends hold steady. Damage estimates for Florida's ag sector are starting to come in. Mike Hoffman has some striking images in today's crop comments. Mike?
Good morning, Clinton. Florida's agricultural commissioner got a first-hand look at some of the devastation caused by Hurricane Irma. From the air, he toured several orange groves in central and southwestern Florida, and the damage is indescribable. Commissioner Adam Putnam said, quoting now, "It's still too early to know the full extent of the damage to Florida citrus, but after touring groves on foot and by air, it's clear that our signature crop has suffered serious and devastating losses from Hurricane Irma." And we obtained some ground-level photos showing orange crop damage near LaBelle, Florida. James Paul of Gulf Coast Citrus Caretaking shared these images. Groves are shredded, and the still unripened crop now sits on the ground. The Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association says citrus crop losses could reach 70% in some areas. Now, taking a look at the weather map, you can see we have to watch Jose off the southeast coast just in case. Other than that, a couple of systems moving across the country. We'll check your forecast, but first, here's some hometown temps.
Visit FarmJournalPro.com. Trusted analysis, professional insight. FarmJournalPro.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the corn market and potential for it to move higher. And later on Drovers TV, another lead executive is arrested from JBS in Brazil. Plus,
I'm Charles Denny. How do we know what grows best in your garden? We do test. That story from the University of Tennessee's organic farm in Knoxville, coming up on AgDay.
In Wednesday markets, grains rebound in early trade. Let's see how things closed from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
The soybeans we're back up today. The futures really got back yesterday's losses after the USDA report sent the market lower. It seems like that we've kind of recovered pretty good. The old crop ending stocks were trimmed somewhat and exports were up, and technically we found a little bit of buying, so it offered some support. Corn also rebounded, better exports and reduced the old crop stocks, also boosted those futures and really got that off the ground. That bearish report yesterday kind of was mitigated by that information today. The harvest numbers are, we're well on our way now to really bring those numbers in and kind of add that to the market. Today, cattle was lower. Beef prices were mixed and moving really the bias to the negative area. There's been increased slaughter, and that's like adding to the market pressure. It's really difficult for any fundamental news to come in here and give the market a boost. We're looking for perhaps bargain hunters to offer some support to the market. The hogs, on the other hand, are sinking. 2 days in a row, the market opened gapped lower and it stayed lower. The futures continued to fall hard. It seems that the increased herds and the also increased slaughter is just pounding the market, and we have really since been going lower and lower. We haven't seen these prices in quite a while right now. It seems like right now there has been a lot of liquidation by the funds, and that really is just stepping on the neck of the market right now. That's all from the floor at the CME Group. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Corn trade has been a bit choppy this week, but relatively range-bound over the last several months. Can anything change that? Well, Tyne Morgan asked that question from the road in today's analysis.
Here now with Don Rose of U.S. Commodities. Don, when we look at these corn prices, just kind of frustrating. We haven't seen a lot of momentum. Just kind of been stuck in this pattern. Do you think that continues in the corn market?
Well, I think when you look at it, Tyne, really what we have is a repeat of last year. Actually, even more than that. If you look at the low that we put in last year was August 31st. Same thing, the low this year was August 31st. So, we've got a situation where we have a big ending stocks figure. Last year we had a big crop and big demand. This year we have a smaller crop and smaller demand. So that's the real switch. And we're going to watch South America very close going forward from here forward.
So what is it going to take to budge this corn market?
Well, I think you take it step by step, and I think from a producer standpoint, we have big carries in the market. So make sure that he takes advantage of the carries, locks in some of those carries through some different strategies. I think that'll give us artificial support underneath the market, because the producer doesn't want to sell at these price levels, particularly if you look at the carry, look at the basis levels. It's almost like harvest basis levels currently. So I think hopefully we get into a situation where South America has some kind of a weather problem. Remember, between Brazil and Argentina, their crop this year was 1.7 billion bushels bigger than it was a year ago. So that's the big issue. They could have a shortfall again, possibly, and that could lead to a better export standpoints for us. But they're huge from a competition from an export standpoint.
So what exports do we need to see come online? You know, it seems like current exports, current demand, we need more than what we're seeing right now. So who do we need to see come into play really to boost this market?
Well, I think what we've seen here short term is we've seen some value buying. We've seen Mexico come into the market, and I think eventually if China would have some kind of an issue, they could be a buyer. Now, I wouldn't hang my hat on that, because I think that's a lower bet right now. But, you know, I think that we're very efficient in the United States, and I think that's our big selling card. And we have a chance now, the new era, every 6 months we have a chance for somebody to have some kind of a weather problem. It's, you know, the South America in the fall, and it's U.S. in the spring. So I think that gives us some opportunities like we haven't had before. It's a plus and a minus.
All right, Don Rose, thank you so much. Stay with us. We'll be back with much more Ag Day in just a moment.
For all your risk management and trading needs, call one of the U.S. commodities specialists at 800-247-4071.
Unlock the power of ag technology this December in Indianapolis at the first ever Ag Tech Expo. Learn all about it at farmjournalagtech.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. And Mike, I think we call it the last gasp of Irma before it moves off the coast, right?
Yeah, here in Indiana, or northern Indiana, we just got some drizzling clouds. It wasn't very nice, but it wasn't any heavy rain either. Of course, we were on the northern fringes of the remnants of Irma, farther south into the Ohio River Valley. A little bit more rain, but you can see it's widely scattered now, and it's not going to produce any heavy amounts the way it looks as it moves through Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and through other parts of the Northeast. Now, we are going to continue to watch Jose. It's now moving northwestward again as expected, but there's a lot of different possibilities for it, and it may just sit off the East Coast for 7 days or so. We're just going to have to watch things and see how it goes. Next storm system, the first one we've seen move through the west in quite some time, and it's a pretty good rain, and if you look real close, some mountain snow there, western Montana, northern Idaho. In the higher elevations, obviously. Heading through the daytime hours tomorrow, you can see that rain starts to move into North Dakota, South Dakota, but especially North Dakota. And that's good news. That whole area has been in a drought for much of this growing season. At least we can start to regenerate some of that moisture in the ground. And you can see the rain and snow continues for the northern Rockies, just scattered showers elsewhere. Checking out precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours has generally been light amounts, adding in the next 36. You'll notice that we continue to add generally light amounts through the Northeast, but these are some pretty heavy amounts, especially considering there's that drought conditions, eastern Montana, western North Dakota. Some of those areas getting 2 or 3 inches of rain, so decent amount there. High temperatures this afternoon. You can see the heat is on in the central and southern plains. Still comfortable across most of the Midwest into the Northeast. Some areas, though, still only 60s. Lows tonight, 50s and 60s, Ohio Valley into the Northeast. 40s and even a few 30s showing up in the northern Rockies, but still pretty muggy through the central and southern plain states. High temperatures tomorrow afternoon, checking out some heat again, lots of 80s through the central and southern plains, but highs only in the 30s and 40s across many parts of Montana. There's the jet stream as we head into this weekend. You can see the remnants of Irma moving away, and basically we end up with a ridge in the east and a trough in the west, and that's going to be the general pattern for the next week to 10 days. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Redding, California, lots of sunshine, not as warm today, high of 85 degrees. Russell, Kansas, a good deal of sunshine and hot, high of 96. And Charleston, West Virginia, cloudy and cool with a shower around, high of 69.
Our Drovers TV report has an update on new arrests at JBS in Brazil, and later these citizen scientists are volunteering their gardens to research in Tennessee.
Drover's TV on Ag Day is brought to you by QLF. For 40 years, QLF has been proud to support American farmers that feed the world.
On Drover's TV, another update in the ongoing saga surrounding JBS in Brazil. Wesley Batista, the CEO and co-owner of JBS, has been arrested by federal police. He's charged with insider trading after an investigation into his actions prior to a plea deal back in May. Now, his brother Josley turned himself in earlier this week after an order for his arrest by federal authorities. The Batista lawyers say the arrests are unjust, absurd, and regrettable. Back at home, the Sterling Beef Profit Tracker says feed yards and packers saw margins go up in the last week. Last week, the average margin for feed yards was $35 per head. That's still $100 less than just a month ago. Packer margins markedly better, now sitting at $194 per head. Cash-fed cattle averaged about $105 per hundred last week. Sterling Marketing also projecting that cash profit margins for cow-calf producers in 2017 will average $126 per cow. That's about $50 less than last year. And in Husker Harvest Days, Vermeer rolling out a new concept for the hay market, a self-propelled round baler. The prototype promising to move quickly and is built to improve the ride across bumpy hay fields. The steering also similar to a zero-turn mower. The company says the tight turning radius is helping with efficiency. It can also set bales in the field to help make that job faster as well. Up next, using your home garden to help state scientists with research.
In the country, brought to you by Kubota. See the all-new Commander Pro zero-turn mower at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Home gardens are a great way to produce healthy foods, but how do you know what to plant on your land? Well, the UT Extension in Tennessee is teaming with home gardeners statewide to test different vegetable varieties. Charles Denny shows us how these citizen scientists are now ag researchers.
Oh sure, you wish your garden looked like this, but take heart, this one was planted by pros. It's UT Ag Research's organic farm in Knoxville. But now you can grow many of these same vegetables on your land. Squash, peppers, tomatoes, and pumpkins. Bounty from a new home garden trial. This past summer, citizen scientists statewide tested many of these varieties.
We want to get more than just what we can do at research stations. We want to know how different cultivars perform in all different parts of the state.
Dr. Natalie Bumgarner and Dr. Virginia Sykes with UT Extension coordinated the program. They say these home gardeners in their own backyards provide valuable research.
Right, yeah, so they were paired comparisons to look at specific attributes like disease resistance or productivity or size, how well they fit in containers.
Then it gives everybody an opportunity to be the researcher and to be a part of this trial, and so we can get many, many more locations than we could ever do alone and really get a fairer evaluation of how these things perform across the state.
This past summer, we had 45 citizen scientists from north of Memphis to Greenville who were part of this program. And UT Extension wants to recruit more gardeners for next year.
Beautiful corn.
Mike Smith of Knoxville says, "Count me in again." He and other volunteers tested UTIA varieties at the Concord United Methodist Community Garden, where they've grown and donated 16,000 pounds of produce to the needy the past few years.
We got 3 different seeds of corn that we've planted, and we can show you those in a little while. We have 3 varieties of tomatoes, 3 varieties of peppers, and we are testing them to see which is sweetest, which produced first, which had the best harvest.
If you're interested in becoming one of these citizen scientists, contact UT Extension in your county. Bumgarner says you don't need a ton of land to take part.
And we're hoping that we get a range of folks, those who have been gardening for 50 years, but also those who might be new to the practice.
The program has 3 steps. Select your trials, grow your garden, and tell us what you think. And when all 3 aspects come together, we've got tasty produce and helpful information.
I like that term, citizen scientist. Yes, yes. That's pretty cool. Hadn't thought of that one.
This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and start your day with us. For Tyne Morgan, Mike Hoffman, and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.